Mics, check. Music cued, check. Presenters ready. Well, 2 out of 3's not bad. This is TigerTails Radio.
And good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and everyone else in between, and welcome to another delightful, delectable, and otherwise entertaining episode of TigerTails Radio, but not as you know it. For this is our little Eurovision special that we are doing. This is not one of the main shows. You may be seeing this on the Monday. This is pre-recorded, be warned. But I am currently not available. So, if you're seeing this on the Monday, it means I didn't get back from what I was doing in time, and hence you get this special. If you are watching this on Tuesday, as in it went live on Tuesday, then there was probably a show last night, and I've told you all about my week already. But if this is Monday, then I'm not here. So you will see that the comments here and here, well, in fact, there's no comments there at all. The YouTube feed is no, because there's no YouTube tonight. And the Discord is going to be just frozen there because obviously no one's chatting because it's not a usual showtime. So this is all pre-recorded, but it is our Eurovision speciality. And I did have a Eurovision-y prop thing, which is going to be backwards because thank you, Discord, because I'm still recording through the Discord and Discord doesn't know how to flip a camera. Thank you. So, yes. Now, this isn't the first take of this. Myself and Charleston actually sat down last Wednesday and we did a whole show's worth of content. And OBS, or Streamlabs in this case, decided it was going to record the video just fine. I'll cut some video in here so you can look at it. But it wasn't going to record the audio, unbeknownst to us. So we did a whole 90-minute show full of Eurovision-y goodness, and nothing could be heard. So you're getting this instead, which is kind of like a little compilation of what happened. And while there was some general banter about Eurovision and things like that, Charleston, obviously being a much larger Eurovision nerd than I am very much I will enjoy Eurovision as it comes. I don't want spoilers. Don't tell me who's singing what and what's coming up. Don't let me listen to the songs early. Let me experience it completely fresh, and I enjoy it. But knowledge goes in, knowledge does not stay in, knowledge flows straight out immediately afterwards. So it's like, that was a nice song. 20 minutes later, what was that song again? And so it's very handy when you get that little voting thing at the end where it gives all the little previews. And you go, oh, I remember that song, that was quite good. Oh, I remember that song, that was terrible. Ugh, didn't like that one. And so that's my Eurovision experience. I've got a couple of the soundtracks and things, and Charleston did give me this lovely book, which is an adult colouring book. So you get some pages, and you get a little factoid about some of the things that you're looking at. And because Charleston's lovely, and he actually managed to get this one for me, we also have it autographed to me. So yes, that was a good present. And at the end of the show, well, for the last kind of half hour or so, Charleston actually put me through a Eurovision quiz, which I said I reserve the right to use this book, and it actually came in quite handy, although I still failed miserably because Eurovision knowledge goes in, Eurovision knowledge comes out. And so, but you know, I got just under 50% of the questions right. It's not too bad. But Charleston is also going to be posing that quiz to people at his care home that he works at and see how they do. So I'm going to lose against people who have dementia when it comes to Eurovision knowledge. And if Charleston remembers, he's also going to try and put a link to the quiz in either in the comments or in the description or somewhere underneath this video. So if you want to have a go, apparently you can have a go too. But that wasn't the only thing we did during this whole shenanigan of Eurovision goodness, because Charleston also went away and did an interview with a lovely content creator called MattLovesEurovision, and we got an interview coming up very shortly. But yes, this week is Eurovision week, which means on the Tuesday, the Thursday and the Saturday, there will be the 2 semi-finals and then the grand live, kind of big live grand final thing. And I will be watching it. We have a Discord channel, which I don't know if is hidden at the moment, but we'll unhide it for Eurovision chat. So if you want to come and join us and chat in the Discord, links somewhere. We got that Discord thing there. There's a link down there as well. There's lots of things going on. Yes, so we'll be here for Eurovision. Fingers crossed all goes according to plan. And so come and natter with us, and we shall all enjoy Eurovision together. But on to the main event, because yes, as I say, Charleston went out and secured an interview. We were going to do it during a live show, but A, don't know if I'm going to be back in time, and B, conflicting schedules meant that Matt wasn't able to come onto the show live, and so Charleston sat down and did a nice little interview with him. for about half an hour, which is a smidge longer than what would normally squeeze in the done and dusted section between the two Jackbox games. So we shall watch that in a moment, and then we shall wrap the show up. So it's going to be a shorter show than usual, but this is just a Eurovision special. Well, actually, this is an emergency. Quick, get this recorded before TK has to go out. Emergency special. And we shall sit back, relax, and enjoy the interview with Charleston interviewing Matt Loves Eurovision.
You're listening to TigerTails Radio, abusing our internet privileges since 2004.
Hello, audience from the future. This is Charleston from the past here. If you happen to notice, I am wearing a t-shirt that is similar to what Daddy Fur wore in 2021. And that can only mean one thing, that we are going to be talking about Eurovision. We were planning to have a special guest for Eurovision Week. However, due to multiple schedule conflicts, what we've had to settle for is pre-recording the interview. So hopefully this will suffice. So I'd like to introduce you to Matt Osborne here, otherwise known as Matt Loves Eurovision.
Hello there. Yes, my name is Matthew, and yes, I'm a very big Eurovision fan. I run a Eurovision YouTube channel and also a Eurovision website as well, and a couple of other social media related to Eurovision. But yes, Eurovision is a huge passion of mine. So this is a very busy time of year for me. So as this interview is happening, I'm in the midst of recording lots and lots of videos, which hopefully most of them will be out by the time you watch. This gets broadcast, but yes, they'll be slightly less fraught by that point anyway.
Yeah, I really appreciate you taking the time for this. So thank you very much, and especially considering that you are not furry, but you're still willing to talk to furries like me.
Yes, of course.
So I guess we'll make a start then. So why don't I start by just giving us a brief history of how and why you got into Eurovision in the first place?
Yes. So the how, or the how is easier than the why, because actually the why is I'm not entirely sure actually, but we'll come back to that. And so I'll say the how first. So I've kind of followed Eurovision. I first got into it. I think the first contest I watched, or I remember watching, would be the 1992 contest, and that's when I was a teenager, which somewhat dates me in terms of how of my age. But yeah, so I was just a teenager when I first watched Eurovision, and so I got into Eurovision at that point, watching it every year, kind of through my teenage years and also into kind of university years. And when I was at university, we actually had a couple of opportunities to watch things together with friends there as well. And then as kind of time went on and I moved down to London, sort of starting my career there was a little bit of a hiatus. I missed a few Eurovisions, or I wasn't quite so much into it. But then some of my friends, we used to start them watching it, kind of the semi-finals and the final and getting together. And eventually I met some friends who were as into Eurovision as I was. And then it really took off from there, in the sense of I started going to kind of actual Eurovision events. So the London Eurovision Party, which is an annual thing. It actually gets featured on the news sometimes now because it's grown so much, but you have a number of the acts from that year's Eurovision, plus some special guests and acts from previous year's Eurovisions perform live at an event. Back at the time, that was at a place called the Shadow Lounge, and then it moved to Café de Paris, and now is at the Outernet, because it's grown hugely. But also kind of seeing Eurovision Eurovision artists at the Vauxhall Tavern in Vauxhall on a particular night called Eurofest. So, and it culminated with kind of me then setting up, doing kind of I think it was a Facebook page I did, and doing like a countdown, not kind of it was just like an alphabetical one, and that sort of grew to a group of us going to Eurovision, and then also just the growth of my kind of doing stuff on social media and sort of web stuff in terms of the videos eventually. So yeah, it's kind of been a sort of in stages process. The why I find more difficult to answer. It's like, why are we interested in anything really? I think I suppose as a teenager, I really loved languages. I liked history. I liked learning about other places. I loved learning about other countries, relations with other countries. And also because I was a huge ABBA fan as a child, I think there was that kind of connection there, so that got me also connected with Eurovision. So, and I used to like the music as well, and I think it's just one of those things. It often gets called the Gay Olympics or the Gay World Cup, or kind of a mixture of those things. And there is just something very inclusive about it and fun and something. And it's not all about support, and it's not all about supporting your country, although that is obviously fun to do as well. But you enjoy everyone else's countries and all the different types of music. And yes, there's the camp and the glitter and stuff as well. But it's just a jolly enjoyable thing. And then seeing kind of people from across different parts of Europe and wider now, of course, kind of getting to know each other and enjoying the event together is fantastic. So yes, that's a kind of the why, although I'm sure there's probably other things I could think of.
Well, you explained it better than I could for my personal why. And I got to say, what you were saying about earlier about going sort of in stages or getting into it, I think when you were suddenly finding people who are actually into it, is kind of where I am right now, because most of my family doesn't like it. My partner detests it. He's upstairs right now avoiding all conversation about it. But I'm finally sort of finding people who are actually into it and genuinely like it as much as I do. So I feel like about a decade's time, I'm going to be sort of where you are right now, possibly having my own channel or something like that. Maybe actually get to go there, which actually moves us on nicely to the next question. As you mentioned, you've actually been to the contest before in person. I know you're not going this year, but you've been to, I think, last year's and some other previous years. And that's something I've never done yet. One day I plan to go in person. That is a bucket list item of mine. But how would you say going to the contest in person compares to watching on TV?
So I've been to two. The first one was in Lisbon. And that was worked out well because Lisbon, I think Lisbon hadn't twigged how much money they could probably have made from it, because accommodation was achievable, and it was actually apparently that was the most cost-effective contest there's been in the last 10 years or so or more. And then I was at Liverpool in 2023, so I didn't go to Malmo, but I did go to Liverpool as well. So, and both of those were fantastic experiences. It is I would say is that you do not have to go to Eurovision, to the physical event, to be a proper Eurovision fan. Never think that just because you haven't been to a physical contest that you're not even. It's intended as a TV show. That's ultimately what it is. But it is a really great event to go to as well, because it's not normally just for the day. You're there for the week. But in terms of the shows themselves, I find it was really it's a lot of fun to be again with loads of fans. Everyone's so excited to be there, and again you're standing. Obviously, you can get if you're lucky, you can get quite close. It depends on where you are and what you want to do. But I've tended to be, well, in Liverpool, I was at what was called the family shows, which was the dress rehearsal. So they're a little bit more relaxed. And so you could see Hannah and Gray were having jokes with each other and stuff, just while they're in sort of small breaks. And, but what is really the most interesting thing, I think, is that you see the amount of work that goes on to get each thing set up. Obviously they have such a short turnaround time between the sets, between each act, and as you know, some of the staging is quite elaborate, and they've got to get in position, or sort of or kind of as Lazara in 2020 had to be hoisted up onto a pillar and all sorts, and it's really just fascinating seeing how slick that all is. And also kind of when you're watching sort of the entries or dancing along to them, but you also know, if you've seen say you've seen the dress rehearsal, or say you've seen the at the final, so you've seen the semi-final, so you kind of know what it looks like on TV, but then you see what's happening. Like I think it was Alika, who was Estonia in 2023 again, that she actually practically sprints from one microphone to another, obviously while the camera is doing something else, and suddenly she appears somewhere else. And so it's quite fascinating to see a lot of that behind the scenes. But then it's always then good, like what we found at Liverpool, is then we get to watch the actual shows, the sort of the live broadcasts, kind of as they would be on TV. So you kind of get the best of both worlds. But it's obviously just being in the city is so much fun. There's lots of events going on, and again, loads of fans around. And yeah, it's just a generally a really enjoyable event. But it does require a lot of commitment because it's tiring, obviously, and you're on your feet. And if you're not in a seated seat, and it can be quite tiring, especially the grand final. You're on your feet for a long time for that, and that was without even standing through the whole voting process, because as we were doing the dress rehearsal, we didn't stay for all of that. But yeah, I've got kudos to those that are there for the actual grand final, because it's a long time to be on your feet for.
I actually remember during the final of, I think it was Moscow, I think it was, when Russia won that one year. And I remember that the audience were getting gradually emptier as the hours went on, and Graham Norton had to explain, I think it was Graham Norton at the time, that it was one of the most easterly Eurovisions ever. It means it was very, very late at night for them. And a lot of them decided to just call it a night before it was all over.
Yeah, I can imagine. I think Baku was the most easterly one. Although that was like, because the crowd there was probably slightly different to the crowds you get in more current Eurovisions now, which is because that was still seated back then in Baku. But yeah, some of the if we end up going to sort of east again, yes, it can get quite late at night.
Well, Albania is one of the favourites I know this year, so it quite possibly could be. Maybe not the favourite, but I know it's getting more praise than it usually does every year. So that also kind of leads us nicely to the next question that you mentioned. The seating, it used to be entirely seated. Now there's standing room as well. It tends to evolve a lot over the years. Rules get slightly changed. The way it's presented gets slightly changed from country to country, year to year. Is there anything about this year that makes it particularly different from previous years that we should get excited about?
I think it's more. There isn't anything radically different this year. I think it's more kind of just an evolution of, rather than kind of revolution. I think what I think we'll see is probably again that kind of continued evolution in the innovation around staging and how things get displayed on camera. I know Krista Bjorkman, who is the showrunner, I'm sure if any viewers know Eurovision, I know Krista Bjorkman is, he was Sweden's entry in 1992, but he's also been involved. He ran Melfest, which is the Swedish national final. He's been heavily involved in a lot of Eurovision, running the contests and doing the producer-led running order. Now, he has hinted there's going to be a couple of stagings that are really quite interesting. I think kind of artists being sort of suspended in the air, but with not that we have had that to a certain extent, but I think he's suggesting that I think it's going to be an evolution of kind of some of the exciting things we might see, and you'd expect that some new things to be tried out on the staging. Structurally, I don't think there's much changing this year in terms of kind of the flow of the show. There has been a talk of the semi-final results being presented in a slightly different way. Now, I know Liverpool was going to try and do something different, and then that got scrapped because there was such a huge outrage about it, because they were going to do kind of that sort of X Factor, Britain's Got Talent style thing of having everybody up on stage, all the artists up on stage. And they did a rehearsal of that, but I think that was just ruled out as no, we're not doing that. So they have hinted about doing that slightly differently. I don't know what that means. So that might be the slight difference. But there isn't kind of anything kind of really radically different this year. I think maybe we might see a couple of changes in the coming years. We might return to a mixed jury televote semi-final split again, because at the moment we just do televote semi-final only, televote only semi-finals. But that may swing back again potentially, but that's not for this year.
I think possibly, from my observation at least, I mean, you're far more in tune with what's going on every single year than I am. My biggest observation this year, I think there's about 3 countries who have all taken advantage of this being the 69th contest. In some degree.
Yes. I mean, there's always a certain element of innuendo at Eurovision. But yes, there's some countries have just ditched the innuendos. Yeah. And just made it.
We seem to have a normally high number of countries this year being represented by artists who aren't from their own country. I mean, Ireland's entry is Norwegian, Sweden's entry is Finnish, Germany's entry is Austrian. There's a couple of others that I could probably name if I was having to do it off heart. And that's not counting out the dual nationalities either. So everyone's sharing each other's countries this year for some reason.
Yeah, I think that isn't unusual. You might seem like a new thing, but that is not. This isn't unusual at Eurovision to have people from other countries represent or be part of the band. Sometimes it's part of a band or be involved. I mean, if just the UK themselves, Gina G, still well known song. She's Australian.
Yeah.
Obviously, Katrina and the Waves. Katrina is she American or Canadian? I can't remember now.
She is currently Eurovision's only American winner, as far as I know.
So and you've had and even ABBA, of course, that Frida, of course, is either Norwegian or half Norwegian. So even kind of one of the most famous winners of all, and of course another hugely famous winner, Celine Dion.
Canadian, of course.
She won for Switzerland, but she is Canadian. So it's not. And Luxembourg have almost very rarely fielded a Luxembourgish singer, and certainly Monaco did not. So France used to end up to have 3 entries effectively, because most of the Luxembourgish and Monegasque artists were actually French, not quite often. So it's not a new thing. What I think is not unusual for this year, but it's quite pleasing to see is that we have a high number of non-English language entries. I think a lot of countries that historically who have tended to sing English have found the confidence to send entries that are in their native languages. So Lithuania for the last 3 or 4 years has sent artists at least partly singing Lithuanian. And Latvia this year is sending someone that's singing in Latvian, and I don't think that's happened for a long time. Germany is singing in German. That's not happened since 2007. So that's something I personally like to see, is that kind of some plurality of languages without forcing countries to sing in the language that they have to in their own country. So
yeah, that's something I'm personally looking forward to. I always like it when a country is brave enough to sing, even if not in their own language, just some other language. I mean, as you know, Belgium twice have sent songs in made-up languages. They don't exist. One time did really well, the other time not so much. But just glad for them to do it. But as we're aware, all languages this year are real languages. People can translate them.
As far as I know, I think there's yes, bar one. There's one entry which is it's sort of a mixture of I'm sure you'll know which one I'm thinking of.
I know exactly.
It's kind of English, and it's kind of English and Italian. It's using Italian words in English phrases, but it's not really. It's neither English nor Italian really. It's but yeah, so there is one entry that does that. But then they also, and we have another entry that sings one line in French and one line in English, which is quite interesting. Swaps between the two, literally within a verse or a chorus. So that's another one to have to look out for.
All right. So next one question, I suppose. Now TK, the main presenter of the show, he's also big into Eurovision. He's part of the reason why I'm doing this. But he has this very, very strict rule where he does not know who the artists are or what their song is before their initial performance in the live semi-final. He is extremely strict about that, with only a couple of exceptions. So, challenge for you, without spoiling the artists or their songs, which countries are the ones we should be looking most forward to this year, and why?
So there's a mix between who are the favourites and who are also perhaps some just interesting ones to look out for. I think there's I think in terms of looking what to look out for as potential winners, maybe, I think you'd be looking once again Scandinavia as potential, looking at Sweden, Finland, Norway as well. But there's also, it's worth looking at some of the Central European countries. So Austria and Czechia as well are worth having a look at. I think those might be some interesting performances and could do well. Also, we've already mentioned it, Albania. Now, I'm not sure I necessarily say Albania is a potential winner, but Albania is certainly sending a really interesting song this year, which I think potentially could give Albania one of their better results of late, but we will have to wait and see about that. I think there's also some wild cards, or just ones that are not necessarily going to win, but could be some really interesting performances. So I think Malta, which people may have already heard about in the news because the Maltese artist appears on Newsnight. I think it's sending a really interesting artist or an interesting song, and that could be quite a lot of fun. well, I've already mentioned Scandinavia, so I think Sweden and Finland are obviously will be both could be very fun ones to watch. Estonia, we've mentioned sort of in passing, although I won't connect it with what we said. I think if you want some more classic kind of Eurovision, more kind of if you're sort of wanting sort of slightly more traditional songs, and yet that's the thing that you like, France is a good bet for that. Also Italy. Switzerland, and also I think Netherlands. I think actually will give you some of that kind of more classic kind of Eurovision ballad or pop or kind of more mainstream side of things. And I think overall we have got a really strong vocal lineup this year. Overall. And I can say this because I've been to London Eurovision, so I've heard a lot of the artists sing live. And this isn't always guaranteed from Eurovision artists, particularly in the mid-2000s. But this year, I think actually that by and large, there's one that I know could potentially be weaker, but I won't mention whoever that is. But most of the artists, I think, are pretty strong vocally, which I think is good, which I think makes a difference. It makes a difference. It's not great to hear an artist drop a sort of a clanger on the biggest sort of pop stage in the world. So yeah, the fact that they are confident in singing vocally is good.
God, I remember that 2000s era of the really bad singers like Ping Pong singing the Be Happy song, and Switzerland accidentally punched stuff in the face with a microphone.
Yes, and there was a German entry, which I'm not entirely sure there was a single right note hit during the entire 3 minutes, but it certainly didn't feel like it. And inexplicably, they didn't finish last.
Sometimes people like the bad ones. I know TK sometimes deliberately goes for the ones who are sort of less good at singing, shall we say. So some people might enjoy that. Yeah, so that's general for the whole of Europe and the few countries that aren't in Europe but take part anyhow for one reason or another. Again, without spoiling the name of the act or what their song is, what are your predictions this year for how us Brits are going to do? How's the UK going to fare this year?
Yeah, so for the purposes of this, I'm going to use they, them, their as pronouns, but that doesn't mean anything. The act could be a male solo, female solo, mixed duo, all female, all male. It could be anything. So I'm just going to use they, them, their to put that kind of generic point about. In terms of the act, predicting how any artist will do, how any country will do, can sometimes be a bit difficult, particularly at this stage before the rehearsals start, before you get a real feel. You can sometimes get a feel from performances they give at some of the pre-parties. I will say for the UK act, I can confidently say that they will give a fantastic vocal performance. There is no worries on that score whatsoever. The vocal will be brilliant, and on that basis, I think there is a chance of. Again, it's difficult to tell at this stage because we haven't seen the staging, and you don't how the running order goes. I would expect that would at least garner a decent jury vote, and I think that's kind of what the UK delegation is wanting to bank on, is a solid jury vote to give a decent result, regardless of what happens with the televote. The televote is a really difficult nut to crack. This year, there are a lot of televote-friendly songs. There's a lot of these big party camp crazy songs, and there's a lot of songs competing for the televote. There's in some ways there's fewer songs competing for the jury side. So I'd expect that potentially we get quite a nice result from the jury side. Televote, whatever happens. This act has been a great ambassador for the UK. They've been going around a lot of European countries as well. They did a really good cover of Husavik, which is from the Eurovision movie. Again, if you don't mind spoilers, then do look on the Eurovision Eurovision's official YouTube channel, and you'll find all the artists to do a cover song or an acoustic version or a club version of either their song or another song. So the UK did Husavik in Husavik, and that is, it's really quite something. It's quite something, and you will appreciate this act's vocal abilities in that. So I think we have an act that we can be confident in terms of the vocal performance, and I think we can be confident in their engagement has been really high, very Sam Ryder-esque in kind of enthusiasm and engagement. But yeah, I'm hoping this will mean that we will not. Well, we didn't finish in the bottom 5 last year, actually. I mean, if you read the papers, we finish last every year, which is not the case at all. And actually, we were on the left-hand side of the board jury-wise, even with Ollie still managed to finish 12th, 13th with the juries. So yeah, I'm hopeful of a good base for the votes, and that may be enough to give a solid result. But televote, it's so difficult to know how that's going to break down. And if you get 6 really kind of big party songs sucking up all the televote points, you have 15 songs which have only got about 100 points left to distribute amongst themselves. So, and that's no reflection on their performance. It's just the way that the point system works sometimes. So, yeah.
It can be very hard to predict sometimes. I mean, like you say, there's acts that we sort of always know are going to do really well, depending on who they are and what they do. But it just all comes down really to the night and what happens, really.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, God, I remember Sam Ryder. I mean, regardless of whether or not anyone liked the song, he was just so happy to be there. His enthusiasm was really what made him so endearing.
Yes.
But yeah, that's pretty much all the questions I have here. So why not just round off by telling us where we could find you on the interwebs then?
Yes, so if you can find me on my YouTube channel. If you when you go onto YouTube and you just type in the search MattLovesEurovision, all one word, that should bring up my channel. And then there's lots and lots of videos there. And the current set is me doing my top 37 of this year's Eurovision, and it's basically me just talking, it's an excuse for how I ordered them. But yes, you'll see all those videos there and past ones as well. And there are links in each of my videos to my other social medias. So my Blue Sky, which is MattLovesESC, it couldn't be long. It was too long to be MattLovesEurovision. So it's just MattLovesESC on Blue Sky. And also I have the website still, the blog site, which is MattLovesEurovision.com. So on all 3 of those, you can find me. Not on the X the Bluebird app. I'm no longer there, so I'm just on Blue Sky now for those matters. But yes, but find me on any of those. But yeah, if you go to the YouTube channel, that's probably easiest because there are links there to my website and to Blue Sky and my Facebook page as well, because I still have that running in the background. So yes, any of those will do. if you're interested, of course. But as you probably gather, I can talk endlessly about Eurovision.
If you also go to the Matt's Eurovision YouTube page, you also find me commenting on almost every one of his videos because I always seem to have something to say. But you all know where to find me. You'll recognize my persona, my rat face. But yeah, thank you for taking the time to have this little interview with us. Sorry we couldn't do this live, but even so, thank you for coming along.
Oh, well, thank you very much for having me, and I hope everyone, if you are going to watch Eurovision, have a fantastic time watching it.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Missed the live show? Never fear. Archives are here. Visit TigerTailsRadio.co.uk to catch up on what you missed.
So yes, that was Charleston interviewing Matt Loves Eurovision, which you can find on all the socials as mentioned at the end of the interview. And if I remember, I will put links in the description or somewhere so that you can go and check it out. Or it might be even on the website because I'm updating the website slowly. But yeah, unusual show this week because this may not be the only show. This is the little Eurovision special. This is a vehicle to get the interview out. And it was also going to be a vehicle for Charleston's quiz. But sadly, Streamlabs did a Streamlabs. And there's no audio. And if you really want, I can put the whole length one up, and because the interview has still had audio, that bit was fine, and the jingle still worked. It was just anything involving myself and Charleston actually talking failed. But if you want to lip read that, I can stick that up for you if you so desire. Let me know in the comments. Actually, leave comments. If you like the video, give us a like as well, because we never plug that. And of course, we have all the other socials that Xavier updates occasionally when he's on. But we shall end the show here, I think, because with just me and me not being able to play any music or anything because YouTube, and obviously not being a pirate radio station, there's not much else to really say. Enjoy Eurovision. It's coming up either tomorrow night if this has gone live on the Monday, or it's coming up in probably a couple of hours' time if you're watching this on the Tuesday. And sit back, relax, and join us in the Discord. Have a nice cup of tea or something. Enjoy the Eurovision goodness, and we will see you next Monday for a regularly scheduled episode of TigerTails Radio. But until then, it's night-night, everybody. Night-night.